Before I start, just want to say this channel, subscriptions are our lifeblood. They mean so much to us. So if you enjoy our content, please do subscribe to this channel. And that is all we require to keep going and keep soldiering on and getting you these resources. Okay, right, let's get on with this. There is nothing you can do about it. When some idiot creeps up behind you, claps their hands, you jump. There's nothing you can do about it. Someone yawns, you yawn. Nothing you can do about it. When someone sends you some notes about your latest submission and you connect your computer to your printer and print out your notes and reams, it's like it's never going to end. It hurts. And there's nothing you can do about it because I think it's called your lizard brain. Is it the hippocampus or amygdala? Let's just call it the asparagus brain. No matter how hard we try, there's nothing we can do about asparagus. It'll always make your piss smell bad. There's nothing you can do to control this. And you shouldn't feel bad for feeling bad over something you have no control over. Like, the sensation I always feel when I get loads of notes is akin to someone connecting a Tabasco drip to your catheter. How you respond to your asparagus brain is key to a successful, happy life within the creative industries. And crafts they are. We're building audio tables. They don't stand up, they don't wobble, they hold the food. That's objective achieved. If someone sits down and goes, "Oh, it's quite a nice table, isn't it?" That's a bonus. But that's all it is, a bonus. Some people let it drain. I have a friend who calls it the feedback half-life, but some people just learn how not to fear it. They put themselves in a context that doesn't make feedback a threat. And there's no such thing as positive feedback. It all makes you feel a little bit shit. No matter how hard or experienced you are, if you make something and you feel that's going to feed and sustain your little group of hairy people that you've got in your own little cave, and then the person you've delivered it to says, "No, this isn't going to deliver that to those little hairy people in your little cave," you have, and excuse the caveman expression, every right to feel fucking fucked off. Stop it, Nala. So I guess my feedback journey, well, it starts with me, I'm not joking, having like nervous breakdowns, feeling burnt out, hissy fits, really rude email responses, walking off shows, retiring as a whole, or simply ignoring them, or indeed the worst possible strategy: you didn't pay me for this, so you've got to pay me again. These are all terrible things to do with feedback because it is your job. Imagine the designer of the A380 wings throwing a hissy fit just because they've changed the cabin size and the wings will no longer keep the plane up in the air. No, this is what we agreed upon. Fuck the wind tunnel. Feedback isn't a drag or a drain, a buzzkill. It is a fundamental part of us doing our job, of us getting the plane off the ground. It still hurts, and I get that. I mean, because it gets us in the asparagus brain. And it's not just us poncy composers, you know, we've all seen a tradesman, well, we could do that, but it'll cost you. A taxi driver, when you disagree with the route they've decided to take. I remember once, I think for us composers, it starts out bad because it's difficult. It's difficult to get that job. That 6 years you've spent trying to persuade producers that you can deliver on that promise of making something that sounds like music to fit under some picture and dialogue. And when we do it, when we achieve it, when it sounds like something that someone else who's better than us can do, we want to be celebrated and congratulated, not criticised. But I don't know, it's like one of my early jobs, I worked with this guy, and the last person he worked with was Hans Zimmer. And, you know, I delivered the first kind of cue and played it to him. I was like, huh? And it's just like, it's music. That's what I paid you to do. How he judged me was not on the music that I delivered. He expected that to be good. It was on the way I interacted with him to make that music better, to tell his story better, to interact with him better. That's how he judged me as a good composer, a good head of department. Your producer is like, did he deliver on time? Was he good at taking notes? I think what also makes it difficult when we start out is we tart. We take on too much because what we're being paid for any single job is not enough. So we're kind of working in the shadows a little bit, you know, not wanting to let our client know that they're one of 15 people that we're working for at that time. So you fibbingly go, I've had so much fun working on this for the last couple of weeks, knowing full well that your manager reminded you that the client was expecting to hear some music tomorrow. Yesterday, you pulled an all-nighter and you're hoping for them to hole-in-one you, and when they ask you to make some revisions, you just want to scream, do you know how busy I am and how stretched across all of these projects? Well, no, they don't. They thought they were in a committed, collaborative relationship with you. Your Tabasco drip, the smell of your piss, your half-life is determined by how you have your life and circumstance organised. Doing exercise, going for long walks, getting sleep, not pulling all-nighters, are all routes to a better, more harmonious, more collaborative environment, even if it's just within your own head. Understanding that those tingly sensations you get when you're given feedback is because your breathing is elevated, you're breathing in more than you're breathing out, and there's a surplus of CO2 in your extremities. The fact you have a dull thud in your stomach is because some of the blood in your digestive system is being rechanneled into your heart, which is now beating faster. And all of this will pass once your asparagus brain is convinced that this feedback is not putting you onto a road to oblivion. Here's how it goes for me. I get notes and I read them immediately. It's my way of avoiding 3 courses of asparagus. You can have too much of a good thing. Firstly being the shit, I've got notes. Then actually seeing how many notes you've had. Never ever review them on a phone because it always looks much, much bigger than it actually is. Then what notes have actually been made and how complicated they look. These all deliver bouts of Tabasco alongside the many triggers that you'll get of great first go, which basically means you're probably going to have to write this again. And the reason I do it in one go, not action the notes, just read them and absorb them, is so that I'm not tripling the risk of the most fatal response, and that is a response to the feeling, not the notes themselves. The angry email, the contempt before investigation or exploration. Absorb the feedback, go for a walk, think about it, cogitate, I think it's a word, or just simply sleep on it, and the solutions will come to you. And when you act on those solutions, I think you'll get a lot of satisfaction out of that, particularly if you've possibly done the best thing when receiving notes, and that is to acknowledge their receipt, to say, thanks for these, I look forward to carrying them out tomorrow, the next day, whenever that may be. The most important thing to understand is you are not in control of how other people act and behave. The only thing you're in control of is yourself. And there's only 4 possible outcomes from actioning notes that you are given. You do everything they say and your work gets better. You do everything they say and they are the type of collaborator that has contrition, the ability to go, listen, that note that I gave you was a load of bollocks. Let's go back to the previous version. Or you don't do the notes, you fight about them, ignore them, and eventually get fired, or at best notice in 14 months' time that that director or producer is now working with another composer, not you. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people who can be a little cunty in the way that they construct these notes and give you feedback. And I think, again, the only way out of this behaviour is not through passive aggression or some aggrandisement that restores your ego. I think the secret here is empathy. Whether you like it or not, their job is more stressful than yours. Because all of the work of all of the people on the film, the actors, the DOP, the editor, the colorist, the score, the sound, are considered to be based on their direction. They have all of that on their shoulders. They're at the very end of the post-production process when they are probably doubting whether the show's working or not, and the only creative differences they can put into their show is in the music. And they don't know how to communicate with composers because you speak fucking Italian and write in these fucking hobbity runes. Talking about music is like dancing about architecture, and it's 10 o'clock at night. They've just chugged a screw-top supermarket Rioja, and they're now watching your submission where they can no longer hear the dialogue. Every director is different, and I think one of the key things to structuring how you receive feedback is to ask people, directors, producers, how they would like to receive your work so that they can give the best feedback they feel they can. You know, to talk to them about previous experiences and what they didn't like. Do they like the dialogue to be loud and present? Do they want the music to be mixed in as it would be? Or do they want it to be boosted a little bit just so that they can hear what you're up to, what you're doing? Talk to them about the way in which it is delivered. You know, there's a problem with iPads and WeTransfer and those mild frustrations when someone sits down with that screw top bottle of Asda Tempranillo, that they are then unable, or they have to jump through some hoops or go and get their laptop or go onto their desktop. Just pre-agree with these people before the crunch hits the best way in which you can work together, and reassure directors and producers that just talking about the story and how it's been told, or referring to things in colours or as shapes or textures, does it sound like honey or does it sound like barbed wire? These are all fine, and in fact what we prefer, we don't like it when directors and producers say they want everything to sound sul ponticello, because it's a prescription that may not get you to the solution. You are responsible for the solutions, they simply direct you towards them. I've grown to love notes, and I used to absolutely dread them, but there's something so validating about being able to take people's sometimes quite abstract comments and words and to fit them round a series of problems like a Longcrane and Broxton puzzle, and for the baubles to fall into those holes and still make music. That for me is craft. Your table stands, it doesn't wobble, it supports the food and fits into the environment that it was designed for. But it still hurts. Maybe not as much as it used to. Maybe that's just getting old, or maybe it's the experience. Maybe it's understanding these notes more often than not will lead to a better outcome, and for you to be considered good at your job, not by your peers, but by the people who pay you. So for as long as your piss still smells of asparagus, you will also hurt. But it is not the person who's delivered the feedback who has punched you in your stomach. It is your asparagus brain redirecting a little bit of blood to your heart that cares about what you do. What are your strategies when dealing with notes, feedback? And what is that part of the brain? Is that just a psychologist mumbo-jumbo thing, these kind of lizard brains and monkey nostrils and all of that stuff? How are you with notes and feedback? Tell us some horror stories that you've had, both it may be how someone has treated you, but also maybe how you reacted to them. What strategies do you employ in order to get through that little sense of disappointment? I know there are a few of you out there who just are not bothered by them at all, but I do think that you're in the minority. But clearly his strategy is to chop some wood. Be a good idea, actually. Thanks, as always, for watching to the end. I just want to say that this new enterprise is a small startup, and the heartbeat, the lifeblood of this is this channel. So if you can subscribe, tell your friends, your family, that would be most appreciated. Ding the bell to be notified the next time we put a video up, and one of those always really appreciated. See you next time.